If you're either just getting started with watercolors and want to start with professional grade paints, or you're looking to upgrade from student grade paints, or your watercolor paint stash is just running low, this video will help you understand the most economical ways to purchase Daniel Smith watercolor paints. All of the prices that I'm mentioning in this video are in US dollars, and these also represent common sale prices, so it's not the full regular retail price. However, I feel quite confident talking about these prices because I often do see these products on sale online in big art stores like Blick. Now, there are 3 different ways you can purchase Daniel Smith watercolors. You can buy them in tubes, so this is a 15 ml tube. You can also buy them in 5 ml tubes. You can buy them in watercolor sticks. You can buy them in half pans. This holds about 2.5 mils of paint. These are hand poured pans that you buy pre-done. And then with the half pans as well, and I guess with tubes, but just to note, you can buy the half pans in curated sets. So this is well used. You can see from how dirty it is. This is the Daniel Smith Ultimate Mixing Palette, and you're going to see how well used it is. It comes with 15 different paints in there, and you can get this on sale for around $70 US. So let me talk about, I guess, what I like and then the costs of the different types of watercolors. So as I mentioned, this is a half pan. I find half pans to be so convenient. Even though they only hold 2.5 mils, they do last a surprisingly long time. I only just started refilling this, and I've had this about 2 years. I don't paint every day, but I completed a very intensive watercolor course without making like too much of a dent in these. And there's only a few that I've had to like put some big refills in. So some of these I haven't touched up at all. I've also learned that I don't love filling pans with the liquid watercolor paint myself. So you can do that. So see here, there's like a kind of a round blob on top. These are all dry. And here as well is a bit of a circle. These ones, I popped them up. They were probably a little less empty than this one, a bit more full than that. And I was just kind of trying it out. So I squeezed a little bit of paint into these ones and let them dry a couple of days. That was fine. But I recently went through an exercise putting other tube colors that I have into empty pans. And while this is a really common process and it's a more economical way to buy paints, I just didn't love it. I found it messy. I got anxious about wasting little bits of liquid paint. Even though, I don't know, that seems bananas, but maybe some of you understand my my anxiety over that. I had to be really careful trying to not spill some of the paint or too much comes out of the tube. And then I did it in 2 or 3 layers for each pan, which is what has been recommended by some of the watercolor teachers that I follow to make them dry thoroughly. So each layer had to dry for 2 to 3 days, I found, at least in this climate here in Seattle where I'm based. And so the whole process just, I don't know, it took probably more than a week to fill these pans for me between letting them dry. And I have so little time on my hands already, is what it feels like, to actually paint, that I kind of started resenting using that time to just refill these paints and then not being able to use them while they were wet. I mean, of course I could have, but I didn't want extra water to get in there and I wanted them to dry as quickly as possible. And so I felt a little bit frustrated just leaving them to dry. I do want to reiterate, this is a pretty normal process for normal people. I just personally didn't love it, but I learned and I'm glad I did it. I will say, even though these are the most convenient and I actually quite enjoy using watercolors from these dried half pans, they are the most expensive way to buy paint in terms of paint volume. So again, this is about 2.5 mils of paint. And these go for, again, on sale, about, I think it's around $6.80 or so for a series 1 color, up to $9.10-15 or so for a series 4. These half pans of Daniel Smith watercolors are available in 45 different colors out of their total 272 color range. If you're not sure what I'm referring to by series 1 or series 4, different series are just groups of paint colors. So there's series 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the different series and the cost of them, it's really differentiated by the cost of the pigment in the paint. So series 1 is typically the lowest cost pigment and therefore the cheapest paints. And so they go up in cost from series 1 up to series 4. Series 4 is the highest cost pigment in the paint. I do want to point out, it's important to know, it's not a differentiator of quality by any means. These are all professional grade paints. It's just the way it is with pigments, and you'll see this across all paint brands, at least professional grade paint brands. In my opinion, with these half pans, you're paying for convenience. If you buy the pre-poured pan directly, that's not a bad thing, right? We've all got different priorities. You can buy the half pans in sets like this, which is great if you want all the colors that are in a particular set. So I know Daniel Smith has some sets of the half pans that have maybe only 6 colors in them. As I showed you, this one has 15 colors. And then I recently got this one. I was kicking myself a little bit after I was working out all the different costs in preparation for this video. This is where this half pan came from, by the way. So I'll click that back in here after I film this. This is the set of 24 colors. This is all the colors that came with it. And I picked this up for just over $100 US online from Black. And so that averaged out to like $4 something per pan, which I thought wasn't a bad deal, especially after I'd spent time filling up my own pans. The advantage of buying half pans in a curated set, so obviously the per pan cost, when you average it out, is cheaper than buying them individually. You'll also get probably a mix of colors in different series as well. So even though it averages $4 something per pan, some of these pans individually would have cost anywhere from $6.85 up to $9 or something. So it's really not a bad deal if you're going to use all these colors. And the choosing of the colors has already been done for you. So you don't need to think about and do a whole bunch of research if that's not up your alley. I tend to be an overthinker and over-researcher, but if you just want to kind of trust the experts and, okay, what are the basic colors that I might need, or, what's a larger set, that decision's already made for you. And there's generally always a really decent combination of paints for color mixing in these sets. So now, onto tubes. It can vary a little bit between brands, but for Daniel Smith tubes, they come in both 5mm and 15mm tubes. The 5mm tubes range from approximately $6.50 on sale for Series 1 up to $10 for Series 4. You can get approximately 2 half pans of paint out of each tube. Even though I do prefer pans, I'm also using them in the context of this video to compare the different volumes of paint for the cost. So at $6.50 to around $10 on sale for a 5mm tube, you're looking at about $3.25 to $5 for each equivalent half pan worth of paint, which is about half the cost of buying a pre-made pan. But again, you're pouring and drying out the pan yourself if you want to work from the pans. The 5mm tubes come in 117 colors, so it's quite a big range. The 15mm tubes, which I buy, they range from $11 for a Series 1 to $21 for a Series 4. And these will fill up to 6 of these half pans each, making the paint cheaper again versus the 5mm tubes, which is why I buy the 15s. If you do buy a 15mm tube to fill your pans, or just trying to compare and contrast the different, relative cost of each, you'll pay the equivalent of $2 to $3.50 per half pan. And again, that is comparing to buying one of these half pans yourself separately, which is between $6.85 and $9.17. Say a third of the price per mil or per 2.5 mils of paint, compared to buying it in these dried out pans. Buying the 15mm tubes rather than pans or 5mm tubes is admittedly a bigger initial outlay, but if you're going to go through a lot of paint, or you can afford the upfront cost, or you plan on making a lot of larger washes where tube paint can be an advantage, these are great value. The 15mm tubes also come in the full range of 272 colors that Daniel Smith makes. If you are the kind of person who likes to collect a lot of colors, which I'm not judging, there are a lot of people like that, and I probably have way too many myself. So the latest incarnation of Daniel Smith watercolors are these watercolor sticks. It's exactly the same paint. It's dry like a pan. These come in 62 different colors out of the total 272 color range. And then in terms of the amount of paint, I believe a stick is equivalent to a 15mm tube. So this can be divided up into 3 full or 6 half pans of paint. So it's way less messy and time consuming if you do want to put your paints in pans. And I'll show you an example. It's way less messy than filling your pans with the liquid watercolor from the tubes, in my opinion. And so here's an example. This was an empty palette, came as a bonus when I bought the other 24 pan set. So these were all empty, and last weekend I spent some time going through my sticks, and then I cut them up with a normal like kitchen sharp knife, probably to my husband's dismay. But you can see they fit in these pans really nicely. I labeled them here just with some Sharpie. So this is Lunar Black. So these sticks, these are frequently on sale, just like all of the other Daniel Smith paints I've been talking about. And I can typically pick these up for about $10 per stick. They do have some sets of 5 that are curated sets, and so they'll come with this case, which you can buy separately, which I did for about $5. So you get 5 sticks and a case for, I think you can get it normally in the $35, $36 range on sale. Again, using Blick as an example. So even though those ones average out to like $6, $7 each when you take away the cost of the case, I'm basing this just on $10 per stick since they don't all come in sets. So at $10 each, and assuming you can get 6 half pans out of them, that equates to about $1.65 per half pan. When we're talking about $6.50 to up over $9 for different series of half pans, with these at $1.65 per half pan, in my mind, that's a bargain. And then with how easy it was to put these in pans, like I'm sold, and I love these. And if all colors came in these sticks, I would prefer these over the tubes in general. Here's something that is key for these sticks. It doesn't matter what series of paint it is. They are all the same price. And so there are some pretty fancy paints in like series 4. For example, I think it's Serpentine Genuine is a series 4. So would be really expensive. I think it's around $20 if you buy a 15mm tube. It's $10 in stick form for Serpentine Genuine. And so just as an example, another example of why I think these watercolor sticks are a great deal if you have no problem painting from dried watercolor, which again is my preferred method of painting anyway. Do you want to know what really blows my mind? The Daniel Smith watercolor sticks are more economical in the long run if you based on each one of these sticks is the equivalent of 6 half pans. It's more economical in the long run than even buying the Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolors, which I know are really popular for beginners. I started with one of those kits too, I think a kit of 12 Cotman watercolor half pans, just to understand the math behind that. On sale here in the US, you can pick up a set of Cotman watercolor pans, or like say 12 or more pans for around, I don't know, $25 to $35. And so let's assume we're talking, and again, this is for Cotman, not Daniel Smith or other brands, but I just wanted to point this out as an example. So say that averages out to $2 per half pan. Like that sounds like a screaming deal, right? But if this is the equivalent of $1.65 per half pan, like this paint is actually cheaper than the Cotman paint. Now, obviously you'll have a much smaller outlay if you're starting from scratch and buying a set of 12 or more Cotman watercolors as an example, all at once for say $25 or more versus buying 12 equivalent colors in the Daniel Smith watercolor sticks, which would set you back around $120. So there's the sticker shock. But knowing what I know now, if I was starting from scratch, I think I would choose to buy 3 watercolor sticks in primary colors, like a red, a yellow, and a blue for around $30. And I'd force myself to learn color mixing from that to be able to mix a range of different colors from those 3 primaries rather than buying a larger set with more colors of student grade paints. I just would. And that doesn't mean it's the right solution for you. That's just what I've learned about me. So these are the primaries I'd probably start with. This one's French ultramarine, but I would probably just get regular ultramarine or this. It doesn't really matter. They're the same price. Quinacridone red, which is, I think, similar to a quinacridone rose that came in the 15 set on the Ultimate Mixing palette, and a Hansa yellow medium. I would probably start with these 3 sticks. Now, if you wanted to level up a little bit, you could get 6 sticks, and you could get both a warm and a cool shade each of the red, blue, and yellow. And that would be about $60, and you could probably mix like any color you could think of with those 6 paints. Then if I was really enjoying them and I could afford it, I'd start to add a new stick here and there and build out my stash of paints to include some earth tones or convenience colors, which is pretty much what I did. I didn't start from those 3. I started with this set of the 15 pans, but as I, slowly want more colors to either refill my pans or say I'm, a few dollars away from getting free shipping when I'm ordering my art supplies online, sometimes I'll put in a new stick in there just to make up that difference because it's often cheaper than just paying for the shipping. And so that's how I've built up a little bit of a collection of sticks. And then I just keep them in here. So what do I want you to take away from this video? In my opinion, watercolor sticks are definitely the best value option of all the types of watercolor, at about 1/4 of the cost per equivalent half pan compared to buying one of these separately. So it runs you about 1/4 of the cost per volume of paint. And these sticks are also between 10 and 50% cheaper than even buying a 15 ml tube. Now, you'll have a bigger initial outlay per color since you're buying a larger volume of paint color, but these will last you a lot longer than buying the pre-made pans or the 5 ml tubes, for example, even though these last a long time. Like I watercolor quite a lot. I've not used up a stick yet. I've cut a lot up to put in palettes, but I can't even imagine when I'm going to run out of these babies. So what is my recommendation? If you're just getting started with watercolor or you're looking to upgrade from student quality paints, buying a pre-made palette full of filled half pans is probably the way to go, despite everything I've talked about. If you want a larger assortment of paints and don't necessarily want to get into color mixing, because if you want to get into color mixing, you can really minimize the amount of paint you need and you'll just get more confident at mixing your own colors to kind of match whatever you need. But I think this 15 set in the Ultimate Mixing palette, I mean, I could mix anything from this. It's a wonderful assortment of paints, and again, is around $70. So if you don't want to get into color mixing, it's probably cheaper to start out with something like this than buying like 15 tubes of paint or 15 sticks, as an example, if you want all these colors. This set does have an assortment of earth tones that you can see here, and it's got warm and cool primaries, so yellows, reds, blues. It's got a phthalo green, and it's also got a buff titanium, which you could probably include in your earth type colors. So it's got a really good assortment. Then as individual pans start to get low, what I would do is buy the equivalent in the 15 ml tube or the stick. Not all of these come in sticks. See where I've cut some of my sticks and put them in these pans, like here, 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 and here, and they fit fine. I didn't even wait for the pans to be fully empty, just to be like fairly low. So, and that's assuming you like working from pans like I do. If you're up for the challenge and want to flex your color mixing muscles and stay around the $30 mark, I would get 3 primary colors, of the Daniel Smith sticks, and probably these 3 like I talked about earlier. And these will last you a long time, and you'll learn so much in terms of color mixing and working from a limited palette. If you are interested in watercolor and in using professional grade paints, I'm hoping this video at least saves you a bunch of time. If you have made it this far, write sticks in the comments, and that way I'll know that you've stuck with me to the end, and thank you so much. I'd love to know, did any of this surprise you, or will it change the way you think about buying watercolors? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please click the like button. It will really help me out. It encourages YouTube to show this video to more people. And if you do want to be notified for future videos I post, click on subscribe and the bell button, and it'll pop up in your notifications. All right, I will talk to you in the next video. Thanks, everyone.